But this is from Communism 1919 over on our Reddit, and they asked me if I had an opinion on this. Here's a adjunct faculty named Jen Roberts. I have cancer surgery scheduled later this month, so I have to miss the first 2 weeks of class. Rather than providing me with a sub, the university is proposing to remove me from the class I designed and cutting my load and paycheck by 2/3. Adjuncting sucks. So, this is just a tweet that someone posted on my Reddit, so I can't necessarily speak to, everything in regards to this issue. But is this a real thing that does happen? Absolutely. And assuming all of this is true, my heart goes out to Miss Roberts. That was her name, right? Yeah, Roberts. My heart goes out to Miss Roberts. I, of course, wish her all the best in her treatment. And I can speak from actual firsthand experience that, yeah, this happens to adjuncts all the time. Stuff like this happens to adjuncts all the time. And looking at it bigger picture, again, I used to adjunct myself. I like to throw this statistic out there. When I was a comedian touring colleges, I would get paid more money to perform at one college than I would to teach at one for an entire semester. Now, I understand it's a weird comparison because you got to factor in travel costs and stuff like that. But the point is, adjuncts are grossly underpaid. It is unbelievable. And if if I really sat down and tried to think, what was I getting paid hourly to adjunct? If I had to break down, the time I would spend meeting with students, the time I would spend preparing a class, the time I would spend grading, the time I would spend in the classroom, there's no way it's more than $10 an hour. There's no way. I would really have to sit down. I'd really have to sit down because this was a couple of years ago. But I can tell you there is no way it was $10 an hour. It was definitely less than that. It was probably about, I would say it's probably about 6 or 7. If I had to factor in, and most adjuncts would probably attest to that, because you don't get paid by the hour. You get paid like just a rate for teaching the course. And if you factor in all the external things with what I was getting paid in Tennessee, which, by the way, I allowed my students to read Harry Potter if they wanted to. But I guarantee it was less than $10 an hour. And adjuncts often do not get benefits. Adjuncts, well, pretty much all the time. Unless they're actual full-time faculty, you don't get benefits. And they use temp services for adjuncts now, where they just, the person's not even qualified to teach in some cases. They're just thrown in there. They're expected to teach a class. So something like this does not surprise me. That woman is probably just treated as a contract employee. So, hey, you have cancer surgery, tough. We need someone in there. So we're just going to take this class away from you. If you can't commit to the class, you're out. So, and again, this is just a tweet. So I can't go out saying, like, oh, well, this is for sure, like this is just one tweet from a person who I do not know. But could something like this be a reality? Absolutely, it could. So my response to you, Communism 1919, you posted this on the Reddit. You asked me if I had thoughts. My thoughts are, we have lost the idea of education as a public good. And something like this could certainly happen. And I have a feeling this is likely valid. Like, I'm sure this woman is telling the truth. And yeah, this is the reality of what we live in. We've lost the idea of education of the public good as a public good. We do not treat our teachers with the respect and dignity they deserve. We do not pay them what they deserve at any level. Teachers do not get paid what they should be getting paid, and adjuncts especially are highly neglected. It's unbelievable the stuff I would see. I would see stuff where I saw this one guy. He was actually, ironically enough, he was a math adjunct. I saw him in our lounge, which we just had this big, none of us had our own offices. Are you crazy? Of course we didn't have our own offices. We all had this big lounge that everybody just shared, and you would just have to try to find a workspace. Sometimes I would just go out where the students were and just sit there because there was more space there. and there were more resources. They'd be like, "Oh, Professor Placone, Mr. Placone, why aren't you in the teacher's area?" And I'm like, "Well, because there's not, like, I need to access this printer, and that's easier to come out here." You'd be surprised how bleak our facilities actually are. But anyway, the math guy, he was crunching the numbers, and he was finding out that between all the money he was spending, between all the commuting he spent each week going from campus to campus, he was barely breaking even. Like, he was on his job. This was his full-time job. He was barely breaking even on it. Because he's like, gee, every semester I get my coat dry cleaned. I get, and all these things. And he's not reimbursed for any of this stuff. And he found out he was barely breaking even. An adjunct teacher. So yeah, this is just another, for instance, we have lost the idea of education as a public good. We do not pay our teachers what they should be getting paid. And it is a huge problem in our society. So thank you for sharing that with the Reddit. Communism 1919.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your